Welcome to Into the Body with Dr. Alex, a podcast by OncoDaily in collaboration with Sharing Progress in Cancer Care. I'm your host, Dr. Alex Filipovic. This isn't just another conversation about cancer. This is where science meets soul, where cutting-edge oncology and human spirit collide. If you are an oncologist, researcher, biopharma leader, care partner, or simply someone driven by passion for progress in cancer care, this podcast is for you. Into the Body offers more than information. It offers transformation. Here we uncover the unseen moments, the resilience behind the research, the emotion within the medicine, and the stories that rarely make the headlines, but are quietly shaping the future of care long before they are ever published in scientific journals. We will explore the scientific body of evidence, the data, the trials, the breakthroughs, the fact that drug development is not just a pipeline. It can be a lifeline. But we will also go deeper into the body as evidence itself. Each episode, we will be joined by oncologists, biopharma innovators, patients, and visionaries across the cancer care continuum to discover not just what's next in oncology, but what it truly means to heal. Expect precision therapies and personal truths, the intersection of biology, mind, and belief, drug development and medicine with a heartbeat. Subscribe now to Into the Body and be a part of a new kind of conversation in oncology. It is an honor to be your host. Enjoy the conversation.
I think this was a truly enjoyable, real, raw conversation between two physicians who know each other in real life. But I think this was truly another way of connecting and learning from each other. And I hope you can take something that enriches your day if you listen to that.
Love it. Thank you. Welcome, everyone, to this episode of Into the Body with Dr. Alex. I am eternally grateful today to be joined by my dear friend and colleague, Maryam Lustberg. I know Maryam for a couple of years now. We've done some amazing events and talks together, but I would love to tell you all a little bit about her. Dr. Maryam Lustberg is a professor of medicine and director of the Center for Breast Cancer at Yale Cancer Center, where she also serves as chief of breast medical oncology. She's nationally recognized for her patient-centered care and innovative research focused on improving long-term outcomes for people living with breast cancer. Her work and leadership have earned national recognition, and she has published more than 140 peer-reviewed scientific articles and book chapters while helping shape clinical practice and education in oncology. At Yale, Dr. Lustberg research focuses on improving outcomes for patients who experience side effects from cancer treatment and on developing novel, blood-based biomarkers to detect recurrence and treatment-related toxicities earlier. She's an NIC-founded investigator and an active member of major national research networks, including Alliance and SWOG. A highly respected mentor and collaborator, she has received multiple teaching and mentorship awards. Nationally, she served as president-elect and board member of the Multinational Association of Supportive Care in Cancer, MASC, contributes to key ASCO committees and guideline panels, and serves as associate editor for the Journal of Cancer Survivorship, while also advocating for stronger patient engagement and shared decision-making in cancer care. Maryam, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me.
I would love to start this conversation by asking you, how are you really doing today?
Well, it's a cold, winter, icy day today in Connecticut in the U.S. So I think, all of us left the holidays in December, just kind of trying to catch our breath. January has been exceedingly busy. No big complaints, but I think it's been a really busy month, as I'm sure a lot of the clinicians can relate. So kind of juggling and constantly multitasking is the truth of it.
Thank you for that honest and vulnerable answer. So juggling, multitasking, catching your breath. I can resonate with all of that. Maryam, I would love to rewind the clock and learn a little bit more about your formative years that shaped the woman who's sitting in front of me today. Can you tell me what comes up from your childhood when I ask you this?
So I was born and grew up in the Middle East. I was born in Iran, which has also been in the news recently, as many of you know. So I grew up in Iran, and I think one of the things that truly shaped me was my grandparents all had exposures to cancer and struggled with cancer. So seeing that as a young child, and really seeing the gaps, seeing how much suffering there was surrounding cancer and healthcare, I think those things made a really strong impression on me. Kind of this desire that we can provide better care and we can do better. So I think those are some of the early memories of kind of experiencing healthcare in another country as a young child and seeing serious illness. Obviously, there were also happy times as well with, family and a very deep, ancient culture with so many wonderful traditions and things like that. And certainly the immigration process also was transformative. So spent some time in Europe, then in the United States when I was 11. So all these things can obviously shape who you are. And I think for me, it has allowed me to be able to connect with many different individuals from different backgrounds and just to understanding that our world is much bigger than our little corner. And also that there's so much that we can all learn and continue to learn, and that, we're all interconnected.
Yes. Yes. It's such a multidimensional experience that you bring forward. And at such young age, really the years that shape us. I'm curious, growing up in Iran and witnessing some struggles in your family, people who were diagnosed with cancer, receiving treatment in the conditions that you were growing up in, what did the younger you conclude that medicine was at the time? And then I'm curious, the reason why I'm asking you this is because I'm very curious to understand how that may have shifted since. But back in the day, if you can ask the little one, like if she had to say medicine is, what would she have said?
I think there was a lot of suffering that I witnessed. My grandparents both had gastrointestinal malignancies, and witnessing the pain and kind of I think as you know, I focus quite a bit on symptom management and supportive care. And although I haven't maybe directly made the connection earlier till this conversation, I think seeing that there was a lot of opportunities to provide optimization of symptoms, and that it's not just the diagnosis and it's not just the chemo, and that there are opportunities to provide comfort in many different ways, and kind of this idea of holistic care as a value, I think is very much deeply ingrained in me. And that's been a lot of the focus of my career. So I think seeing it as a young child and wondering, could we do better? Could we provide comfort in addition to actively managing kind of the medical side of things?
Yeah, and that inner knowing I'm hearing as well, perhaps, of people deserve better.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So the years go by and you go through your education years. Was medicine a given? Was it something that you were always going to step into, or do you recall a decision point?
I was drawn to it from very early on. I think the decision point probably was sometime in high school or secondary education for folks in other countries where it's not called high school. But I was always very much interested in science and, chemistry and things like that. And I was also drawn to the literature and humanistic aspects of, poetry. And it seemed that in medicine that there was an opportunity to bring the two together and, to bring that humanistic side of things into the scientific aspect of things. And it was that I didn't have to choose, that in medicine, I think, there are moments in the day where you are drawing on both of those rich traditions and both the scientific aspect of things as well as just that those human connections. And, we think about the novels and the poems that have deeply impacted us. So I feel like it still continues to infuse how I can relate and understand my patients. So even now, I think sometimes we don't fully know what a field is going to be till we're deeply embedded in it. But even when I think back now, I think it really does draw on both of those traditions. So the high school me may have been kind of romantic about it and maybe did not fully understand what being a doctor is because none of my family members were in the field of medicine. So it was completely new to me. I still think that logic applies, that I can kind of meld those two interests into one practice.
Yeah, absolutely. It really stands that medicine is both a science of biology and physiology and other disciplines of that nature, but it's also social science. And I feel perhaps this is also a little bit self-referential, but I'm hearing it from your story that you've made it your own and you've managed to bring both aspects that light you up into a cohesion through your practice. And you do that so beautifully. So the journey of medical school and then residency and everything else that you have so diligently moved through. Talk us through some of the highs and some of the lows, because we all inevitably face them. And I'm really curious to hear what were the lessons that you may have taken from both sides of the experience.
Medical training is tough, as you know, and there were grueling years where you do lose sight of maybe why did I do this? I didn't like memorizing things. I didn't enjoy anatomies. I would say those were some of the lows. But as soon as I would come into contact with patients, even standardized patients. I remember being a first-year medical student, kind of memorizing and doing all the things. And then we had a standardized patient session. And obviously, these are not real patients. They're actors. But even the act of engaging in those interviews, I'm like, oh, this is why I wanted to do this. This is really wonderful. It was very enriching to be even engaging with a not so real patient. So I think there were reminders along the way why I chose the path that I did. I think being in the inpatient side of things, obviously patients and families at their most vulnerable stage, when diseases are quite advanced, really seeing it as a privilege that even in our worst day, I think what they're going through is so much worse. So I think I would say those are, I don't want to call it a high because it was, obviously seeing human suffering and others struggling. I don't feel comfortable calling it a high, but it was maybe moments of reaffirmation of why I had chosen the path that I had taken, and it was kind of additional energy and fuel to keep going. And it kind of gravitated me toward oncology again, because I think it came back to those early years that you had asked about, that I really wanted to connect with patients and families living with cancer. Saw it as a deeply vulnerable time for them, and wanting to do things a little bit better.
Yeah. When did you start really embodying and expressing not only interest, but active showing up as an oncologist who deeply values looking at the whole person? And did you ever was there ever a moment where you thought, what are others perhaps going to think because I'm doing things slightly differently?
I think part of all this is being absolutely humble and knowing that I feel that I fail every day. I think, I do practice in a very traditional medical model where there are, 15 to 20 minute appointment slots. And this is not me being hard on myself, but I think it's really important to kind of take stock of there are things that you can do well, and there are times where maybe you are trying to make it to your next appointment. So I would say every day I'm deeply aware of maybe times when I'm missing the mark. And then there are times where, taking that extra time to deeply understand what the issues are. I saw a patient and her husband the other day, and it had been a few years since she had been diagnosed with metastatic breast cancer, and she was seeing me for the first time, and I think it was still raw. Just the diagnosis felt raw, and the trauma of it, and and how much she was trying to do everything in her power to change the course of the disease. And I think taking the moment to be present and deeply understanding that, instead of saying, just deal with it. You've known this for 2 years. I could see myself really slowing down and taking that in and being present in those moments with them, which I believe were meaningful to them. I may not have been able to change a lot of the things, but I feel like they felt heard, and that they felt that as a new oncologist, I was giving them that space and time to express that sense of loss and dismay that things had happened the way they had. But I think in that same day, I think just as it goes, because these practices are very busy, I also was deeply aware that, I couldn't possibly do that for every patient that day, but maybe choosing a few patients who truly needed it that day. Yeah. I try to do that well. Some things happen outside of the clinic. I do make myself available in terms of phone calls, emails, and things like that. And I do think that personalization is a little bit missing from how we view kind of routine standard care now. A lot of things go through before a patient is able to talk to a physician. I think it has to go through multiple layers, and obviously that's logistically essential for busy practices, but I do try to make myself available as much as possible. So that was a roundabout way of saying that. I'm deeply aware that I cannot do this all the time, and but when I do, I think it's so refreshing and gratifying to patients and to myself. So I think it's bidirectional what we get out of it.
Yeah. And Maryam, just listening to you is incredibly humbling and very rewarding, and just a beautiful reminder for myself as an oncologist. And I thank you for that. And I'm sure that our colleagues who are listening will feel the same. Just a reminder of truly what a privilege it is to show up. And I feel like what you've done, just talking us through how you practice, normalizes both the experience of the clinician and the experience of the patient. And that normalization piece, I feel like we don't acknowledge often enough. We talk about integrative oncology, holistic care, whole health medicine. And typically when we say those words, we mean for the patient. And yes, of course, for the patient and for their care partners, for the families, of course. And there is another person in this partnership, and that's the clinician. And so it's equally important for the clinicians. So what you shared here, I feel, and I really do encourage everyone to listen to this part several times and just really, really take it in, because I found myself slowing down and taking it in, is a beautiful reminder that we too are people, and that sometimes you'll do really well, other times not so well, and that's okay. But with a very clear intention to show up as human, then it becomes really a dance.
It does. You said that beautifully, and that bi-directionalness of it is so important. And another aspect of it is kind of our own defenses and defensiveness as a physician. I think I also take note of that throughout the day, because I think what I love is that patients have become much more engaged. They have more tools at their hand where they can easily, gain access to reasonable amount of digital information, whether it be through AI sources or web sources or peer groups, focus groups, and things like that. A lot of online sources that did not really exist 10 to 20 years ago. And so I think that's also humbling as a physician, because they come to me and they have certain ideas, and I can see myself sometimes, like, in all honesty and vulnerableness, kind of like, you're telling me that I should do this test, or and then I kind of take stock, and I'm like, this is exactly how it's supposed to be, that bi-directionality and that conversation. And that we finally are beginning to equalize this playing field, because it's really hard to be sitting on the other side of a doctor's visit, maybe not having those tools and essentially being told this is what's next. And now they at least are coming with some preparation. And like I had said, something like as simple as we're going to do a biopsy or assess for a biopsy. And this really engaged caregiver brought me back. So it's going to be this type of biopsy with this type of, and obviously he had gotten it out of a ChatGPT, and it was obviously the right approach. But I could see myself just like, yes, of course I knew that. But then I'm like, this is his way of trying to gain some autonomy and control in a terrible situation. And that's okay. So that type of dynamic is going on throughout the day. And that's another way of really checking in on my own emotions, of kind of challenging me in terms of the hierarchies that we may have in our head about what a physician and patient relationship should look like. And so I think some of those things are also turning on their head. So as we continue to think about personalization, holistic care, I think these power dynamics are also part of what we need to be thinking about and readdressing. So it's an exciting time too. And certainly don't have all the answers on it, but it was a busy clinic day yesterday. So I have all these ideas about what happened during the day, but those are some of the things that play out in these busy clinics.
I absolutely love what you're bringing forward, because these conversations are so needed, I feel, and hearing from the clinician of those very, very real moments that we all go through, but then sort of brush under the carpet and go back into a certain role with a white coat and with a stethoscope and with a diploma hanging on the wall and all of those symbols that we trained to acquire and then to sit in front of. I love how you're reframing that this is actually very exciting and it's the change that was necessary to redefine those roles and to bring re-empowerment back to the patient. It doesn't take any power away from the clinician, but it actually allows for an engagement into a true partnership.
Yes.
And it reminds me of something that I heard years ago that said, I'm not here to fix you because you're not broken. I am not here to help you because I'm not above you. I'm here to serve you because we're equal. And I feel like what we are stepping into now, hopefully if we allow it, is that dynamic, more gentle dynamic.
Yes.
In the clinic itself. And with that said, I feel like talking about these very, very real things that we will continue to get is super important.
Yes. And I completely agree. I love how you frame things. I think another part of this is also just, we always knew that there are differences in terms of patient awareness, education, resources, and things like that. What I'm also noticing is that people have talked about this digital divide, and I think it's becoming even more prominent in these clinics where you can see kind of patients who have embraced kind of these new resources that are available. And then there are patients who, for a variety of reasons, more limited resources, limited access, limited know-how, you can see just kind of those divides developing, and there's no way that I can fill those gaps. Like if they're on, so you just really are constantly looking at kind of just that social fabric and how you can see how different patients will do differently due to kind of all kinds of things outside of the medicine that I give them.
Yes, exactly. And I'm curious, are you also noticing the divide in terms of the adoption of the novel digital tools amongst the profession itself?
Some. I mean, I think people have been on the physicians that I work with. I think, we have a group of physicians and researchers who are deeply embedded in studying all things AI and truly studying kind of implementation and different tools and research. And then there are folks who are more kind of simply end users. And so, yes, for sure, there's like definitely a lot of differences there. I think people are still trying to figure out just exactly how to bring these tools into their practices in ways that feels authentic, because I think there's still a sense of, are we cheating? Which it shouldn't be that, but there's a sense of like, well, I looked it up in this platform, and people are always kind of, there are some people who are qualifying it, and others speak with authority, and that this is just an additional tool to help me practice better as a professional. So I feel like there are just different levels of comfort in terms of how we even bring these tools into our routine practice. So that's such a great question. And yeah, I think there are definitely differences. And I don't think it's necessarily age of the clinician dependent necessarily.
Mm-hmm. I can, something that you brought up just then, and again, it's one of those gems that is so real to people. Am I cheating? Should I know this? Like, I should have all the information. How dare I? But then let no one know. Yeah. And it feels like, to your point, there's an infinite amount of resources at this point, and we're not supposed to know it all. I feel like these tools are now actually, if we use them, and I love the word you use, with authenticity, they're allowing us to bring what digital tools cannot bring to the clinic, and that is the human connection.
Absolutely.
And that's where the value, a tremendous value lies.
Completely.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's going to be interesting how things play out in the next few years. I do think it's just going to be one of the one of those transformative periods in human history. And I think we can use these tools for greater good. I think we're still just at the beginning.
Yeah, I agree. Very defining period ahead of us. Definitely. I'm curious to hear your thoughts and perhaps experience from the clinic, both from yourself and from your patients. You're very engaged in cancer survivorship. And I'm curious about the word itself. How does it land with you, and how does it land with your patients?
The term survivorship, I feel, has been one of the most debated, misunderstood, patients don't always love it, type of terms. So I think there is, no matter how much we come back to the National Cancer Institute and Institute of Medicine definition that cancer survivorship starts from day one and goes throughout the cancer care continuum, no matter what your stage is, no matter whether you're on treatment or not on treatment, it doesn't seem to make a dent, I feel like, for many clinicians and patients, where we still, I just heard another talk last night where it's very well-respected clinician will say, well, when treatment ends is when survivorship starts. So I try to like I say it in every talk that it starts in day one, but I wonder even if the lack of uptake from accepting that formal definition, if that in itself means something, and that, we've been kind of trying to fight it, but I think in general, I think when people are in the thick of things in the middle of treatment, it's hard for them to kind of call that a survivorship experience. And I think there's value in seeing it that way as well. I think the inclusive term, I really believe in that, that I think a lot of the principles of survivorship and all the domains of survivorship care, really, we do the best service to our patients if we can really embed them from day one. But yeah, there's quite a bit of push and pull about what that means, how that's done. And I know also individuals living with advanced cancer also have felt that many of the survivorship literature has excluded them for a long time. And we have. I think it's important or not. I think many of the survivorship studies have routinely, less so recently, have excluded patients with stage 4 cancer. But so I can see why patients living with advanced cancer may not identify with the term survivor. And there are different alternative things like thriver and things like that. But I think I would like to make it less about the term, but more than that, the principle is kind of back to optimal supportive care, holistic care, treating the whole person, really incorporating all the domains of quality of life. It's not just about the disease, like making it more about health and less about the disease terminology. And so I think that's where I'm currently synthesizing it these days, that, we spend so much energy trying to create definitions and trying to change thinking, but let's focus on that whole person care. And I think that's where the value is.
I love that. You've been involved in some amazing studies, many clinical trials with novel drugs that have been approved. You have been involved in creating guidelines and protocols. And then you have worked on studies that have perhaps investigated and looked into how activities that seemingly we would think wouldn't make a dent or a contribution do. And I'm thinking of a specific one, but then I'm really curious for you to tell us about perhaps others as well. And I'm thinking about dance. So tell us about the study that you've done with patients in dance, and what did it show?
So as the listeners know, and of course you know, chemotherapy-induced neuropathy, the neurotoxicity of our cancer treatments. There's been over 100 trials looking at ways to treat chemotherapy-induced neuropathy, prevent chemotherapy-induced neuropathy. And the truth is, the guidelines, when we scientifically evaluate the data, there's been one positive phase 3 pharmacological study for treatment on neuropathy, and that's duloxetine. There's been really no good phase 3 data for prevention of chemotherapy-induced neuropathy, although data are coming, so exciting things are ahead. For example, with non-pharmacological approaches like cooling and compression and acupuncture. So I think what's so interesting about the neuropathy story is that I think in medicine, we tend to think medicine and prescription first. And so the story of neuropathy is a really important story, is that a lot of the medications clearly have failed our patients. They have not really shown to be helpful for neurotoxicity, but a lot of the non-pharmacological therapies, cooling, compression, exercise, movement, acupuncture, these have kind of emerged, beating out those very negative drug studies, which have their own side effects and things like that. So it's a really wonderful scientific story of non-pharmacological therapies truly beating out things that we write a prescription for. So through long-standing collaboration with physical medicine rehab specialists, this has been a collaboration of over 20 years, really learning that movement and rhythmic movement, where we are moving our body to music and the rhythms of music, is actually good for our body. It can. So we have really good data that we showed in smaller studies, and we're replicating this right now with a modified Argentine tango study that that rhythmic movement can actually be quite healing for improving balance, improving neurotoxicity, improving pain. And part of the dance intervention is that it's that social connection, right? You're dancing with an individual, you're in a class, and some of this is that social environment being also part of that healing. But we don't want to just say that. Obviously, we're all scientists, and so we are directly measuring this through funding at the National Institute of Health, looking at carefully obtained functional measures of balance and gait variability, changes in brain waves using EEG monitoring. So this study is currently going on in Yale and at the Ohio State University. And so we're really truly quantifying what we know that it's true, which is movement and rhythmic movement is actually, we feel better when we do it. So really excited about this work, and also kind of putting the science behind this neurons healing and recovering from injury that we see from our treatments. So very grateful that this work is going on, and patients love it. It's 2 hours a week where they can exercise, focus on themselves, meet other folks, connect. And so I think it comes back to this greater vision of back to kind of optimal supportive care or optimal survivorship care, which is that, we have a ton of tools from how do we kind of prescribe these more non-pharmacological interventions, be it one-on-one peer support, psychological support, exercise prescription, nutrition, all those things that I know you're also very passionate about. But how do we do it in an integrated way, even outside of these studies? I don't think there's going to be patients who are able to kind of do that on their own because they have the resources and the know-how and the passion to do it. But I think the average patient is still not getting that type of holistic care in routine care. Mm-hmm. So that's what I kind of see as my next chapter in terms of what I would love to focus on is how can we do these things in resource lean times for that average patient, because there are well-resourced patients who can do it, but that average patient who may not even be aware how important these things are, how can we bring them to that 50-year-old mom who is coming to clinic, who is so busy and overwhelmed with cancer care and all the things that she has to take care of with the family. And I do think kind of some of these digital technologies and remote monitorings and things like that, all of that will be part of that story.
I was going to ask you about your next chapter, but I feel like you have beautifully lent us an insight into what that is. And I will be both cheering you on and hopefully collaborating with you on some of these endeavors, because it is really the next chapter and such a worthy cause and a mission, I feel, for all of us to bring forward to the patients, and also to continue speaking very openly and truthfully about the clinician's experience in equal measure, so that we can meet each other. And that connection then heals both ways. Yeah. Maryam, is there anything that I haven't asked you that is on your heart that you would like to share with the audience?
No, just that you are doing such incredible work yourself. So hopefully the listeners are also get to know that and are being directed to all the amazing things that you're doing. Just truly admire your vision and passion and continue to learn from you. So just the listeners are very lucky to have you as the host of these series.
Thank you so much. Oh, thank you. Very humbled. So one last question. It's more of an association. So I will say a word, and then what I'm curious about is to hear the first thing that comes up for you when I say it. So when I say body, you say?
Body. I did.
When I say body, you say?
Whole.
Blood. And so it is. Thank you so much for joining the conversation with me today.